Starting your own garden from a tiny seed, it can feel like some next level expert skill, right? I mean, you're literally trying to play Mother Nature inside your own house. But let me tell you, when you get it right and you see those first little green shoots pop up, wow, it is one of the most rewarding things you can possibly do as a gardener.
So, are you ready to do this? Ready to unlock that next level of gardening and grow some amazing varieties you are never, ever going to find at a big box store? Good. Let's dive in.
But let's be real. So many of us have tried this and ended up with, well, this. Trays of moldy soil, or little seedlings that just look sad and kind of give up. But here's the secret, okay? Success isn't about having some magical green thumb. It's almost entirely about knowing which common mistakes to avoid.
And that's exactly what we're going to walk through. We'll start with the challenge itself, then we'll build your foundation for success. After that, we'll get into planting and watering the right way, then caring for your new seedlings, and we'll finish up with that crucial final step of getting them outside. All right, first up, let's talk about the foundation. This is all about your timing, your gear, and your soil. Seriously, if you nail this part, everything else becomes so much easier. Okay, the very first mistake pretty much everyone makes is just bad timing. If you start too early, you get these long, weak, root-bound plants. But if you start too late, they're not going to be big enough. So how do you fix it? It's actually super simple. First, you just need to find your area's average last frost date. A quick search online will do it. Then you plug that date into any online planting calculator, and boom, it's going to tell you exactly when to start every single type of seed for your specific area. It's like a personalized schedule for your garden. All right, let's bust the #1 myth in seed starting right now. That a sunny windowsill is good enough. Spoiler alert, it's not. Not even close. The light from a window is way too inconsistent, and it comes from the side, which makes your little seedlings stretch and get all weak and leggy. What you want are short, stocky, robust plants. And really, the only way you're going to get that indoors is with 14 to 16 hours of consistent, direct, overhead light from a grow light. And look, this doesn't have to be some crazy expensive, complicated setup. You can see a couple of great examples right here. You can use basic fluorescent shop lights, or build a simple stand out of PVC pipe for some LEDs. Both of these DIY options are going to give you worlds better results than even the sunniest window in your house, I promise. Okay, check this out, because this is where things get really interesting. Temperature is a huge deal. Take a look at tomatoes. In warm soil, like 65 to 85 degrees, they can pop up in under a week. But if that soil is just 50 degrees, it could take them over 40 days to sprout. 40! That is a massive difference. Just finding a warm spot in your house or using a simple heat mat can be a total game changer for getting your seeds to germinate quickly and reliably. All right, mistake number 3. Please do not just go scoop some dirt out of your garden. It's way too heavy and dense for those tiny, delicate new roots, plus it's full of weed seeds and things you just don't want. What you really need is something called a seed starter mix. It's specifically made to be super light and fluffy, so it holds just enough moisture while letting those little roots breathe and expand easily. Okay, get ready for this one, because it might actually surprise you. Those eco-friendly peat pots, they are a super common reason why seedlings fail. They dry out incredibly fast, and they can actually wick moisture away from the soil. And the worst part, they often don't break down in the garden, which can literally choke out your plant's roots. Simple plastic trays are so much better. They're reusable, they hold moisture evenly, and they make it a breeze to pop the seedlings out when it's time to transplant. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Listen to this cautionary tale from a gardener on Reddit. I dug up a whole entire undecayed pot from at least 2 years ago. Yeah, that says it all, doesn't it? Those things can become a little prison for your plant's roots. All right, so our foundation is set. We've got our timing, our gear, our soil. Now for the next part, planting and watering. You're all set up, and now it's time to learn the single most important technique for keeping those little guys happy. So, mistake number 5 is a big one, watering from the top. I know it seems like the natural thing to do, but when you pour water over your trays, it can wash tiny seeds around, it compacts the soil, and it makes it really hard to know if you're giving them too much or too little water. So what's the solution? It's this awesome, super simple technique called bottom watering. All you do is take your seed tray, the one with drainage holes, and set it inside another solid tray that doesn't have holes. Then you just pour water into the bottom tray. It's genius, really. The soil acts like a sponge and just wicks up exactly the amount of water it needs through the holes. It's pretty much foolproof. Okay, success! Your seeds have sprouted. We have little green things. Welcome to what I like to call the toddler phase. This is where a few simple care tasks will transform those fragile sprouts into strong young plants. This is a super critical stage, and there are three big traps people fall into. First, not thinning. I know, it feels so cruel, but you have to pick the strongest looking seedling in each cell and snip the others at the soil line. If you don't, they'll all compete with each other and none of them will thrive. Second, fertilizing at the wrong time. Think of it this way. A seed comes with its own little packed lunch. You don't need to feed it until its first true leaves show up. That's the second set of leaves. And even then, only use a fertilizer at half strength. Finally, waiting too long to pot up. For bigger plants like tomatoes, once their roots fill that little cell, their growth just stops. You've got to move them to a bigger pot to keep them growing strong. Okay, now we have to talk about the number one villain of the seedling world. It's a fungal disease called damping off. This is what's happening when your seedling looks perfectly healthy one minute, and the next it's just collapsed, totally limp right at the soil line. But here's the great news. It sounds scary, but it is almost entirely preventable. In fact, if you've been following along and doing everything we've talked about, using sterile mix, clean pots, bottom watering so you don't overdo it, and making sure there's good air circulation, you've basically already built a fortress against it. You've got this covered. You've done it. You've made it this far. You've nurtured these tiny seeds into awesome little plants. Now there's just one final bridge to cross between their cozy life indoors and the big, wild world of your garden. And this brings us to the final and honestly the most tragic mistake I see people make. Because after all that work, weeks of care, people skip this step and it's a disaster. It's called hardening off. And if you just take a plant from your protected home and plop it out into the harsh sun and wind, it's a shock that it probably won't survive. So, what is hardening off? It's basically boot camp for your plants, a slow, gentle introduction to the real world. Over a week or two, you just gradually get them used to being outside. You start with just a couple of hours in a shady spot. Then, each day, you leave them out a little longer and give them a little more direct sun. This process literally toughens them up and gets them ready for their new home. And this is your reward. Not just one or two survivors, but trays full of strong, healthy plants that you grew from a tiny little seed. They're ready to absolutely take off the second they get into the garden. So there you have it. You've got the playbook now. You know all the common traps, and more importantly, you know exactly how to avoid them. The only question left is, now that you know the secrets, what incredible, amazing things are you going to decide to grow?